Twins report cards are in for the first quarter. Results could be a lot worse. They could also get a lot better. Who are the teacher's pets and who's in the doghouse? In a way, it doesn't matter because everyone still has to get locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who doesn't love that theme song?
Yeah.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team. It's your team. You need to sell the team. I'm kidding. Every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Joe Polad. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer whose teachers used to write on his report card, needs to use self-control until like third or fourth grade. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. So I got that on my new report card. Yeah. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warren, who actually used to get great grades in school, and I think is like an A+ student. Isn't that cool? That's awesome. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can't find us at Puckett's Pond anymore because it dried up, but there's always Access Twins and zone coverage. On the podcast this time, the Twins still have an 8-game winning streak because they haven't played since our most recent show. Funny how that works out. But we have reached the 40-point game of the season, technically 41, which means it's time for first quarter grades. Oh, no. Over the next show, maybe two, we'll see how it goes. We'll look at the hitters, pitchers, coaches, and adults in the front office and grade them all. Some of their parents won't like it. Are the Twins going to get ice cream? Are they going to get the iPad taken away? Is this going to be a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing? We'll let you know. But first, we must tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. Get to FanDuel right now and start dueling. Brandon, the report cards are out. Well, actually, we're going to reveal them in this show.
They're in
really
right now. They'll be out.
The only thing that matters is what we think. And we're going to tell you how we think the Twins did in the first 41 games of the season. They won 21 of them thanks to a late flourish at the end. I'll tell you, it reminds me of freshman biology. I was getting a D, and I was going to have to take it over. And my teacher's like, I don't know what we're going to do. We're down to the final here. And I pulled an A in the final. And I'll never forget the look on her face. It was similar to the look inside my heart because I don't know how I did it either. It was like one of those, where's this bet all quarter, Dave?
That was me with intro to philosophy class.
Well, philosophy, they shouldn't grade you on philosophy anyway. It's all to each their own, I think. But that's kind of how the Twins did. The Twins, they get a passing grade here because of their flourish at the end of the first quarter and winning 8 games in a row. How do you see it, Brandon? Is it a good report card? Is it how would you characterize your overall grade of the Twins?
Well, above all, don't call it the quarter pole of the season because people like to do that. And it's the 3-quarter pole of the season because a quarter pole means there's a quarter left in a horse race. So that's just a pet peeve of mine that I wanted to get off my chest. And yeah, it's complicated. If we were to use a Facebook relationship status from years ago, it's complicated would be it. Because if you go look at their offensive rankings, they're 20th or worse in average OBP, OPS, runs scored, home runs, stolen bases. Pretty much anything offensive is offensive. And I mean inoffensive in the sense that their offense has not been offensive. You keeping up with that?
That offends me.
As far as the starting staff, pretty much same as it ever was. Good numbers. Really the biggest thing that's getting them is the occasional home run, which they've done a decent job putting the kibosh on recently. And the bullpen has been pretty much what we expected. Outside of Jorge Alcala, we can't be gaslighted into thinking this isn't a very, very good bullpen. And if you watch this team every day, you know that there are very few guys out there that you don't feel like you could drop into pretty much any situation and feel secure with. I think you could you could theoretically have Justin Topa pitch with a 2-run lead in the 9th, and that would be a lot less scary than a lot of other teams going to their 5th or 6th reliever on their pecking order. So in general, I'm lukewarm on how they've played to this point because of how I view them as a team. But as far as like moving into the future, with my expectation that as weather heats up, the bats are going to continue to heat up, it's a good place to be. You know, I know they're 5.5 out. I know that the other teams in the division, for whatever reason, can't seem to stop winning. But I think the Twins have reestablished themselves as right in the thick of things, which even just 10 days ago would have seemed unthinkable.
No, a week ago, this report card would look a lot worse. And I was looking at, you were going over where the team places offensively in the league. And I was looking at the baseball reference page of just the offensive side, really. And it's, you've got some guys have gotten their head above water, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 guys, 6 everyday or pretty much everyday players who are below league average. A couple who are like right at league average. One who's a little above league average. It doesn't necessarily seem like it. Trevor Larnach's about 109. He's got a 109 RBAT and a 100
but he's slugging
OPS
395. So I mean, if someone told you Trevor Larnach was slugging 395, you wouldn't be too excited about that.
No. But he has had his moments. So it's not other than like Buxton and Bader and France kind of, and Jeffers kind of sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
And Wallner, who's not playing right now. Wallner's out. Wallner had a great first 18 games, but he's sort of got and I guess we'll get to a grade on him, but how I did my grades was, if you're up with a team now, you get a grade. If you're in the minors, if you're Mickey Gasper, who didn't hit well when he was up, you get an incomplete because you're in St. Paul right now. That's kind of how we probably have different grading styles or whatever, but that's if you're not on the big league team here at the third quarter poll, as you put it, I don't think that exists in horse racing, but
yeah, I don't know.
It's it's funny though, the feelings about this team really change almost from day to day. And it's like, well, if they put a good game together and they've won, you feel like this is the point they're turning it around. And if they have a poor series, which hasn't happened in a while, they've been on a good roll, you feel like they're never going to get out of it. And it's funny how much it is like the 2024 season. I was looking at how that season went, and it's not exactly like this one. I think they got hot, a little hotter, a little sooner,
Mm-hmm.
and it went on for a little longer than this hot streak has. They won. They had a 12-game winning streak, but they were doing well beyond the 12-game winning streak, even though after it got busted up. So it was a while, and then it was things were okay until basically September, and August wasn't that hot either. But it's funny how we give them grades for the first quarter. If you gave the team grades for the first quarter, first half last year, they'd be really good. You look at the end report card of the Twins, it would stink. So, we know that we're getting ahead of ourselves with these grades, but it's still something that, it's I don't know. It fills the gaps between the games, and it helps flesh out how we feel about how they're doing. So, I think we should take our first break now. We'll do that, and then when we get back, we will start with offense. Is that all right?
Yeah, We'll
start with the offense.
Well, the NBA playoffs.
Oh, there is a commercial read. I thought there wasn't.
That's because you can't read. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot, a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy. Also, when your team is up 3-1 and on the brink of going to the conference finals for the second straight year, that also makes it pretty easy to follow. But FanDuel wants you to get in on the action both before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and those SGPs, we call them same-game parlays, leaving fans with more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And a $200 bonus bet could be yours, or in bonus bets could be yours if your first $5 bet wins. That's if you're a new customer on FanDuel. And you know what? You can do these same-game parlays if you want to be opportunistic and maybe you see something you think is going to happen while you're watching in the first quarter, and then something in the third, and then something again in the fourth. Piece those together and you can win big, and you can win big fast. If you're new to FanDuel, though, like I said, now is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, because if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Locked on Twins has returned. Can you hear me, Brandon?
Sure can.
Oh, all right. I had a little bit of a discombobulation there when I realized that I had misread the pregame instructions and got ahead of myself there. So we're
to the
the grades for the Twins for the first quarter of 2025, and they're not bad. A week ago they were a lot worse. Catcher Ryan Jeffers, I'm giving him a B minus. He gets a B minus. He's actually hitting pretty well. I don't know the defense. They ask him to catch the ball a certain way that is good for the pitchers, but not good for framing. I don't get it. You get it?
No, not particularly. And sometimes it feels like he's not that concerned with framing, and sometimes it feels like he's really on it. I know Fangraphs has him as a plus 1.0 for defensive runs, which is, respectable. They have that for offense too. And, noticeable lack of punch. He is slugging 381. So a little lower than you might like. I give him a solid B, because the bat, 248, 336, 381 for a catcher is pretty dang solid. It's a 109 weighted runs created plus. However, if you're going to be merely acceptable defensively, and knowing what I know about his offensive skill set, I need more than a 381 slugging percentage. And it's possible I'm asking for more than I should be. But for me, what I say, a B? I think a B is where I'm at with Mr. Jeffers.
Well, I don't think you're asking for more than we've seen from Jeffers before.
Right.
So that's good about the defense, that it's rated pretty well. I would say he is playing better defense than he was last year.
Yes.
Last year he didn't play very good defense.
Right.
So I go with B minus just to motivate him. Not that he's ever going to see this or give a crap if he did, but there's more meat on that bone, on that hitting bone.
Sure.
And Rocco has always been a guy. He's shown his faith, and it's more faith than trust, I think, in Jeffers, because he puts him in the middle of the lineup. He'll put him near the top sometimes. Maybe he hasn't done that so much this year, but he puts him in positions to drive in runs and get on base. And I think we will see what's good about his first quarter, Jeffers, is that it's not in the tank. It's not there are guys on the team who've really, really struggled to hit. He's not one of them. We want a little more power out of Jeffers. Yeah. And I think we can do it. When he is asked, well, what do you want for yourself? What do you think you can be? He thinks he can be the best hitting catcher in the league. That's what he said. And I think he can be one of the 3 or 4 best hitting catchers in the league. I think it's great for him to want to be the best. He should shoot for that. But I think what we should shoot for is like top 4.
What he's pacing for would be about 2.5 Fangraphs WAR, which for a catcher, that's a good catcher. Not going to make you forget about Joe Mauer, but it's also going to not make you yearn for, it's not going to make you yearn for the days of Juan Centeno either. Legit. No. Yeah, legit who there.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. So Jeffers gets a B for you and a B minus for me. First baseman Ty France, I give a B plus 2. Just because I think there's a little bit even more punch to have. I'm not sure about like where he is rated defensively because I don't think his range is very good. But the dude catches the ball and has saved many, although not that many lately. I think the throws have been better from around the infield. But earlier in the season, he was saving runs left and right. He was saving their bacon. He's been very good as far as a guy who will catch the ball at first base, even when the throw is imperfect. He's gotten some big hits. He's hit into some bad luck at certain points. I'm not sure where the meter is on that lately. But Ty France, to me, is a B+, and I think he can end up an A- by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your expectations too. When you figure that he only signed for $1 million and he signed late and all that, but I gave him a B-. I would like to see more offensively from the standpoint that I feel like he chases way too many breaking balls away in tough counts. And again, that's not unique to any sort of to him in any sort of way. And he's been especially tough with two strikes. I think he's at or near the top of MLB in hits after starting account 0-2. Very AJ Pierzynski of him. In general, I mean, league average weighted runs created plus defense, first basemen get dinged by positional adjustments and that sort of thing. But I think he's been perfectly fine over there. He hasn't made me yearn for Carlos Santana at first base as I suspected he might. And so he's been good enough offensively. He's been good enough defensively. B-. It's the grade where you go in, you're not going to make any sort of honor roll, but you're also not doing the C's get degrees bit either. You're hanging right in there. And I still think there's room for improvement. I just probably wouldn't be hitting third for me if it were me writing the lineup card.
Well, I mean, he does chase sometimes, but he also sees a lot of pitches. He gets hit with pitches. He goes the other way. He's a guy who will put the ball in play.
Yep.
So I think that's a big reason why maybe he's there. But I also, it's like you're talking about, well, where do you hit him in the lineup? When Carlos Correa was going poorly, people wanted to keep pushing him down, and it was like, well, who do you push up?
Yeah.
Who do you switch him with? Do you think that the bottom of this order has really got somebody who's hitting better than? So I kind of feel that way too.
Only Bader really right now. Bader you could move up, and I think Bader is doing well where he's at to the point where you just let him do his thing.
True, and I think that's what Rocco's aiming at there. That the bottom of the lineup needs somebody doing well too, and he's down there, and he kind of starts things over again.
Yeah, well, and then you actually have someone on base for Byron Buxton and that sort of thing too. So there's definitely some utility there for sure.
Yeah, I don't think what ails the Twins lineup particularly, and I think this is usually the case with most lineups, the order of the lineup matters much less than anybody suspects. And they need more guys hitting for sure, but they don't necessarily need to move people around dramatically in the order to make that happen. So
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Edouard Julien gets an incomplete. He's the guy that's listed next on Baseball Reference as far as the most games played at second base.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, it would probably be like a C- or a D. It's been pretty.
Yeah, I would say it's a D. It's a solid D.
Yeah, I mean,
he showed some signs going the opposite way. Taking his walks from time to time, but his defense not good.
He's got a 60-point gap between his WOBA and his expected WOBA. 337 expected means he's probably swinging it a little better than we're giving him credit for. But with no defensive value, you can't really rest your laurels on, I'm swinging it better and not seeing results. It's kind of like, okay, you're also taking some pretty ugly plate appearances. You're doing that weird half swing scoop thing that kind of like drop the ball into left field that I don't really understand. I'm not high on him right now in really any way, shape, or form. And
I will say this, to get it back on the record, I don't like how the Twins have handled him. Now you talk about, well, where should people be in the order? Where should people be in the organization? Last year, they had a situation where they had so many injuries toward the final weekend series of the first half that they brought him back from the minor leagues when he had not conquered his demons at all down there. They had sent him down. He started out terribly. He started out actually hot and then went into a huge slump in like mid-May and June.
Right.
And he did not. He definitely did not need to be back in the majors. It was the worst thing for him. They didn't have any alternatives, although they could have brought up Peyton Eales. Not that I knew who Peyton Eales was in June, but they knew who he was. They could have brought him up to play second base as a placeholder. It would have messed with the 40-man roster. I'm kind of sick of that excuse.
Right.
But bringing Julian back, I think, has hurt his confidence. And I think he made the team in spring training, but also if people hadn't gotten hurt again, he wouldn't have made the team. And he should have started the season for sure this season in AAA.
He needs the Walnut reset. He needs the Walnut reset.
Yes. I think that's what they wanted to do. I think that's what they knew they needed to do, and they didn't do it. They got there was too many injuries going on, and I don't know. I guess I don't know who they would have brought up instead. Maybe they could make a waiver trade, do something.
You hang on. Yeah, do a Cody Clemens situation or Jonah Bride. Those guys are available quite frequently.
Something.
Victor Robles was available. We'll remember that one because I was pounding the table for them to get him and get rid of Manuel Margot. And those guys, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And you get lucky and you pick one of those guys up and you ride their heater to wherever they're going. Not exactly the case with Jonah Bride and Cody Clemens so far, though.
Well, speaking of getting lucky and riding the heater, we are going to take our second break, and then we will continue to talk Twins offense here on this show called Locked On Twins. And we are back with Locked On Twins for our final segment about the first quarter grades. We're focusing on the offense so far. We're taking it easy. We're not trying to cram it all in one episode. So we're going to have another episode about the pitchers and the coaching staff and the front office. And we'll probably have to go faster there because that's like multiple segments about different. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Just have some faith in us. So Carlos Correa, I'm giving him a C+. I give C4 a C+ because
same. I'll just get out there in front and say same.
Mm-hmm. He it looks like maybe he's fixing his offensive whatever is going on. I don't know how much his sore wrist has to do with this. I don't know how much I don't think it's the plantar fasciitis. I don't think it's his feet because defensively he has started out as well as you can.
Mm-hmm.
He's been terrific on defense, and that's grading him against himself in previous seasons. He's been just what the team needs in the middle of the field. He had I maintain the most important play of the season, the catch. It was against the Red Sox, I believe, and when he ran out to short center field and saved a couple runs from scoring.
It's that, or it's Buxton against the White Sox, right? The diver.
Yeah, maybe.
It's one of those two for sure.
That's around the time when they got healthy. But I think they needed to start stacking some wins, and he made that play, and he kept the extra runs off the board, and it got Paddock's like that really energized me. And not to get ahead of ourselves, but Paddock has had a great rush, a great flourish here at the end of the first half. I think those things are related. So I think I give an F for hitting, but an A for defense, and C+ gets a C. C4 gets a C+.
Same, yeah. And I think it's funny that the Twins went from Jorge Polanco at short to Andrelton Simmons at short to the aggregation of the two. A pretty, when Polanco's at his best, and I think this is even above his best in Seattle right now, you're talking a 120, 125, 130 weighted runs created plus, and Simmons was defense, and made contact. I think if you combine those two, you get Carlos Correa, and it shows the value of a complete shortstop. But yeah, he's a C+ for me right now. He's trending in the right direction offensively, I think. But for now, I'm still skeptical until he's, getting a little closer to 100 weighted runs created plus. He's at, and this is not very nice, 69 right now.
That isn't very nice. It's sort of like how there's more there with Jeffers. There's definitely more there with Correa.
Yep.
There better be. If Jeffers doesn't hit any more than league average, you live with it.
Yep.
But I don't know if the Twins can live with it if Carlos Correa is that or worse. So Brooks Lee, the third baseman, according to Baseball Reference, B minus, but with room to grow. I think he's on his way to being maybe a 10 or 15% better than league average player. The defense has been mostly good, better probably at third and even short than at second. There was a play at second base where he was trying to get a double play and he botched it. And then he came back and got a double play later in the game. So, but when Edouard Julien does that, it's like, why are you even here?
Mm-hmm.
You can't hit, you can't make the basic plays on defense. If Lee happens to screw up on defense, I feel like, well, he'll get the next one. And in his next at bat, there's a chance that he'll hit a double with people on base. So I'm all in. I'm buying Brooks Lee.
B plus for me. And he was sure-handed even at shortstop the other day when Correa was out of the lineup. I mean, that second base flub that he had seems so out of character when you view his entire body of work this season. And offensively, he's right now at exactly 100 weighted runs created plus. His expected WOBA is higher than his raw WOBA. And so there's certainly stuff in his profile that is encouraging offensively. And when everything comes together and everybody's healthy, that's a guy I need to find room for in the lineup every day, because not only am I happy with how he's performed, but I'm eager to see what the future holds for him. I'm not a great comps guy, and I know comps aren't great, but I think he could be a Jason Kipnis type hitter.
Oh, it's a nice comparison. He's from northern suburbs of Chicago, so I like that.
Yeah.
Harrison Bader in left field, I give him an A. You could give him an A plus. I'm going to give one player an A plus, and it's not any of the hitters. But I give Bader an A. Everybody's seen it. We've seen him make mistakes too. There have been a couple of flubs in left field, and sometimes he chases. Nobody's perfect on offense, but what a great pickup, Falvey.
Yeah,
Bader has saved their bacon. He's been terrific.
He's been like, if you had put Carlos Santana, the acquisition, on steroids, like, oh, he's been a great defender. He's been huge for the club in a spot where you were maybe not expecting that much offense out of him. Like, yeah, Santana started slow, but in general, you look at his season, you're like, yeah, that's one of the better free agent signings that Falvey and friends have had. Now, if that's damning with faint praise, that's fine. I can live with that. But Bader, 146 weighted runs created plus, walking 10% of the time. I tell you what, if he walks 10% of the time this year, he is going to get a 4-year deal in like $50-60 million range. Like, for sure. Someone is going to view him as, we can't afford a center fielder like blank. I don't know who that is now, because center field is kind of tricky. It's not what we remember it as, back in the days of like Griffey and all those studs.
Yeah. Discounts great players.
Right. It's a guy who, based on his defensive value, you've got a floor of like Kevin Pillar, Kevin Kiermaier, but you've got a ceiling of a truly super player. Like, if he does this for all 4 quarters of the season at this pace, you're talking about a 5-WAR player. Now, again, we may come back, and his WAR in the Midsummer Classic will be right where it is now, based on how he's played in the past, and maybe most of his value is defense. But you can't take away what he's already provided to this team. And I think sometimes we forget that with WAR too. That it's the way it's calculated versus how wins are accumulated can be a little tricky. But for now, yeah, I went to a school where they didn't give A pluses, so it's a straight up A for me. But he's the MVP of this team for me to this point, and it's close. It's very close between him and Buxton. But I'm going to take Bader by just a little bit.
Well, I'll take Buxton by just a little bit, just because he's in center field, and the expectation, his own expectations are finally being met again for the first time in a long time. Healthy every day, running the bases really well, stealing bases at 2, which they basically told him to stop doing for years. But it's a good thing that he's able to get them.
He's 4th on
been big
games played. Like, that's huge.
Yes.
Huge.
It's very huge. He does have Buxton's approaches at the plate actually have there are variances. But usually it's like swing hard, and if it's anywhere near, it's going to get a swing. He is capable. It's kind of crazy. He is capable of working longer at bats, and I'm never like surprised when he works a walk because I'm like, he can do that. You don't have to swing at
But
you
if
can
you throw
swing on those sliders low and away.
slider a foot off the plate,
Yeah.
I'm feeling more likely he swings at it than not. I mean,
but this is what it is, and it's working.
yes.
He's effective enough. He's in the top 10 in multiple categories offensively, slugging and home runs and stolen bases and doubles and that kind of thing. So he's contributing in every way, in addition to the good teammate that he's kind of always been, the listening post, someone who's got a thought on, if you're in a tough spot, go ask Buck.
I feel like he's got wisdom.
A great quarter.
He's got wisdom, I think, like that comes with being in the league and not only struggling on the field, struggling off the field, like pretty much everything you can experience as a player, all-star game, home runs, going through the worst of the worst, missing games in the playoffs, getting hurt in the play. I mean, everything except shy of winning a title, Byron Buxton has done. Winning awards, being one of the worst players, he's been there. And so I think that his value is huge. I'm giving him an A also. Would I like more walks? Sure. And what's funny is if you look at them as purely data points, you'd think, oh man, Harrison Bader should be leading off for this team. But then I watch Harrison Bader plate appearances and I'm like, I don't know if I really want that either. I mean, maybe if the walks continue to be there, but I don't think of him necessarily as someone who works pitchers in the way I want a leadoff batter to. With that said, that's probably true for Buxton too. But they're both A's for me, and it's really splitting hairs as to who's been better.
I think Matt Wallner, I'm giving, he's hurt right now, but in 18 games, I'm going to give him a B. He's been decent on defense. He's been, he's done a lot of what Rocco thought he would as a leadoff hitter. Seeing a lot of pitches. He'll miss a lot of pitches too and swing for the downs. He's got there's a fine line between how Buxton goes up there and Wallner goes up there. Wallner just is able to cash in on a few walks sometimes, but I think that's your leadoff hitter when he comes back. I think, he's taking his time with his strained hamstring. I think eventually he'll be back in that position. And I think at least against right-handed hitters, that has worked. And Wallner's a leadoff hitter.
Keishel. If Keishel gets back, I like Keishel as a leadoff guy. Honestly, I mean, he works the counts a little differently, and I would then respect the power of Wallner as like a number 5, number 4 hitter. If you can get to where Wallner's hitting 4th or 5th, Correa's hitting 3rd or 4th, Buxton is 2nd, and Keishel's leading off. Suddenly, Ty France hitting 6th, and Harrison Bader hitting 7th. Like your offense lengthens out significantly with Trevor Larnach down there, who, he's been punishing some pitches lately too. There's a reason why we were so frustrated with this offense when people were healthy-ish, and I say healthy-ish because they just got Lewis back, because they have the horses to be a very good offense, and that's pretty much the only thing stopping them from being in the mix with Detroit atop this division.
For sure. And I think they'll get there to a certain extent. Maybe the offense will never be as good as we hoped it would, but with you never know when someone else might get hurt, but because it's just the way of the game, not even so much the way of the Twins. But our last main guy, I guess, is Larnach. I give him a C+. Maybe I'm being generous. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. I don't know. I expect a little more. I want a slugging percentage this day and age in the 450s, at least, rather than just under 400. He's played right field okay. I don't really like him out there much, but I don't think he's as good as Wallner, and that's kind of a sore spot for the team. But I don't know, C+. I don't know. He's
been fine. Yeah, I give him a B, and basically because I did the notes for today's game, and he is one of MLB's leaders in count leverage. And what I mean is starting at count 1-0 versus 0-1, he has near the AL lead in plate appearances starting 1-0. If he can continue to work counts in his favor, And I think he's been, I don't have the data to back it up, but I think he's been better hitting non-fastballs this year than last and progressively backward. But if he can continue to command the counts that he's in to get pitches he can handle, he's got a bit of a gap in his expected versus weighted on base in the negative sense. So like he could regress in the positive direction. I still think there's something there. I know he's not a baby. I think he's 27, 28. So it's not like he's got a ton of room to grow, although Bader's not young either. And he's having a really nice year relative to previous years. I don't know. I think if he can continue to command plate appearances as he has, there's no reason that when we reconvene at mid-season, assuming we remember to, that he's not slugging 450 with a 335 on base and a 250 average. So not much of a jump in average and OBP, but I think the slug could jump without much having to change for him.
All right, that's most of the lineup that we're going to get. You know, Royce Lewis is an incomplete because he hasn't been here most of the time. Willie Castro, maybe like a C. I don't know.
I'd go lower. I've really not been impressed with Willie Castro. I don't like his plate appearances. I'm out. I'm very down on Willie Castro. He swings at some of the worst stuff you'll see, and I just don't see how that approach is sustainable. It's just not.
Well, and he's a guy that has hit leadoff a lot. So not necessarily because he draws walks, but because he can get into a better groove than he's shown in the past. I would expect a big second half, relatively speaking, from Willie Castro. They don't need him to play every day. They don't need him to play a particular position. Knock on wood. I expect better. I'm not saying that because I'm like, I expect better from you, young man. I think Willie Castro will have a better second half.
He could be a second half all-star. Why don't they should do that. They should name a second half all-star team.
They should, because the all-star game is just first half all-stars.
Right.
Plus other political things and other luck and whatever. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm going to steal that idea. Can I steal it?
Yeah, no, all the best ideas are stolen.
I suppose.
Or taken.
So we want to tell you, though, something very important, that we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. They bring you every game, every night, all season long. Get in on this. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we want to thank you for listening to this podcast, which told you about the Twins' first quarter grades for their hitters. And we're going to be back with another show about the pitchers and other people. But until then, this is Dave Brown, wishing you all a very pleasant good evening with Brandon Warren, saying we will, Alexei, see ya tomorrow night.